Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Everyone, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show for our latest interview. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton. I have a very exciting guest joining us today. He's an individual who wears many hats and has certainly left a profound mark in the world of entertainment and fashion. He's an international supermodel, actor, singer, social media influencer, and an author. Our guest is none other today than the charismatic Brandon Cole Bailey, who you may have known back in the day as It's Really Ken on Instagram. Over the years, Brandon has not only been featured modeling for such big names as Pump and all the regular Sears, Kohl's, JCPenney, and Hollister, but has had many a glamorous persona in magazines and so many other great places. The thing that I like the most is he's a beacon of authenticity and resilience, openly sharing his experiences with mental health issues, eating disorders, and addiction recovery, an amazing autobiography called It's Not Really Ken. Today we'll dive a little bit deeper into Brandon's life, his achievements, and the journey that shaped him to where he is today. So buckle up, kids. It promises to be an enlightening conversation with the extremely handsome and multifaceted Mr. Brandon Cole Bailey. Mister, how we doing, sir?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for that beautiful intro. That that was just so sweet. Thank you.
Well, you deserve all the accolades, my friend. As I told you off air, I've been a follower of yours for a long time. I mean, we're going to go through that all in a bit, but you've been doing this for a while, man. We're talking like 15 years old. You got your first modeling gig?
Oh, 13 years. Yeah. 13 years.
Amazing.
But it started a lot sooner than that, honestly. I mean, it started from when I was a kid. I was always like, I want to be the star of the show. I'm going to be the one that makes everybody happy. Like, I would wake up when I was a little kid and my grandma tells me these stories. Like, when I would wake up, I would say, good morning, with like a huge smile on my face just to make everybody happy. So
I love that. And I remember reading an interview somewhere, watching you on an interview one time, that this was actually kind of a left turn for you. Actually wanted to do musical theater, or the acting was more, and singing was before the modeling, even the interest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in choir super young. As soon as I was in kindergarten, I was put into chorus. I think that my teachers just saw that I wanted to do more and I wanted to be artistic. I started writing children books in arts class when I was in kindergarten, and then come around first through fifth grade, I was in the gifted programs where we would travel all over the southern part of the country and do all these little performances and stuff like that, performing arts. And then as I went further, as far as the arts go, I got into a school called Lewis Cowell's Harrison School for the Performing Arts, actually, believe it or not, in Lakeland, Florida. And then early graduated for that because I really wanted to do my career, further my career quicker. So I went to a collegiate program at Polk State doing college at 15 to 17, where I obtained my associate's degree before I graduated and moved to New York City to really be in the game of modeling. But the game of modeling really started when I was scouted when I was 15 and started with Next in Miami. And my first mother agent, Kira Alexander, who is still to this day the best, in my opinion, in the industry.
Oh, that's amazing. We're going to talk all about the career. I like to always start off with two questions for all of my virgins here on the show. First one is, tell everyone a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of a kid were you?
Oh, where did I grow up? I grew up all over the country. Colorado, Arizona, Las Vegas, Florida, Georgia, all over Florida. Florida was like a huge part, basically. Like most of the time it was Florida that I was growing up, all over there. Like as far as Florida goes, we lived in Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, Lakeland, St. Pete, Tampa, like just all over.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a vagabond.
Yeah.
And you said you were always kind of drawn to the entertainment field or everything. What was kind of your impetus to that?
You know what? I think that I needed a way to like vent my feelings and the things that I was going through as a young child. And I think that I always found I just had a love for it. And so for me, it made me happy, you know, playing the piano, singing. Dancing was never really my thing, TBH, which is probably why I don't do well on TikTok, because I'm not doing the dances. But I did do like 5 or 6 different forms of dance. I did 2 forms of vocal, and I did theatrical, musical theater, and on-screen acting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the second question I like to ask everyone is you've kind of had a journey where you're now openly out and proud performer and model, but you kind of went through a stage where you kind of came out as bisexual first and gay. When did you first kind of come out to yourself? Who was the first person you told, and where do you feel you kind of finally found your tribe?
So I didn't find my pride, and I was so scared to come out to my family, and for the best reasons, honestly. Even though now they're very supportive, I was always a little afraid. I didn't really even, honestly, you know, the truth is I didn't even know, honestly, until I was 18 and fell in love with my first love, and then realized, hey, I am, you know, and it was time for me to come out. And so that happened when I was 17, just turned 18 in New York. My first boyfriend was actually my roommate, and my family came to visit me to see, like, you know, I brought them on set to some of my shoots. I got to like see my world, you know, meet a lot of really cool people. And that's when I came out to them, because I just felt like that was the most opportune time. Like I introduced them first to my roommate, and then and then at dinner that night, I was like, so remember when I told you it was my roommate? It's actually my boyfriend. So that was like a wild journey, because like, you know, when you start out as a model, like I was lucky enough to like have enough bookings to afford to be a roommate. You know, New York is extremely expensive, but I started in the model apartments. But then I was like, I can't do this. I'm not gonna like work like crazy every day and go to a million castings and then sleep on a bunk bed. So my first New York agent told me that they had an opening in their apartment. And like then his best friend was like the person who I like fell in love with. Like for my first love or whatever. But you know, first loves, they're like interesting.
Right.
Really,
Learning experiences for sure. That's
learning.
right, exactly. We'll talk about that. Coming into modeling at such a young age, you have all the kind of hopes and dreams of what you think it is, and then you're hit with the reality of it. What were those first couple of years like in the business? Was it
Oh my
was it better
gosh.
you thought? Was it worse
I
than you
mean,
thought?
honestly, I was signed with the top agencies in the world. Like it was like no joke. Like it was contracts and telling me I can't do this and can't do that. And I can't, you know, if I want to be a gay model, then I have to, then I should just go do gay stuff. Like I shouldn't ever do like real stuff, even though at the time I was shooting with the biggest fashion photographers in the industry. I was doing some of the biggest magazines in the industry, but we decided to part ways in New York, because I'm, you know, they would obviously never say it. So that way I couldn't come on a podcast 10 years later or 8 years later and talk about it. But it was like a very big deal that I was like an openly gay man and going to the gay clubs and like trying to live my best gay life, because I'm finally open at 18 years, you know, and I want to like enjoy myself and be free. But I also was an extremely hard worker. Like I had always been a hard worker. I got my first job when I was 14 years old. But even in school, like I had a 4.2 GPA. The max is a 4.0. But the reason why is because I took high school and middle school and then college classes in high school. And then I just ended up in college. when I should have been a sophomore. So
Right. And I mean, we always think of modeling as being the glamorous life. You've had your slings and arrows. We're going to talk a little bit when we get into the book in a second. But what was the things that kind of made you grow up the fastest? What did you kind of learn? Like, this is a business, and what did you really kind of first kind of come to Jesus moment in modeling, where it's like, wow, this is serious stuff.
as far as like shoots or
Yeah, as far as just the whole business, I mean, you're now 15, 16-year-old kid working with these top modeling agencies, and a lot's expected of you. How do you keep that pressure off yourself at that age
I don't
and
think
just
you
kind of
really
learn
do.
the business?
I think that I had so much happen when I was so young. And right before I started at 14 was the incident of which I talk about in my book. I'm not sure if it's like safe to say that word on here of what
Sure.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I mean,
ahead.
I was raped when I was 14. And that kind of just slung me into this like, I'm going to create It's Really Kin online and escape that because it was like this huge thing that was all over the news, like articles all online, like like the FBI like came to my school, like pulled me out of class, questioned me. It was like the most embarrassing thing ever. And I think that that's a big reason I wanted to early graduate. And I created It's Really Kin on Instagram at the beginning when it was just filters. Um, and I just escaped into the Ken doll. Like I developed severe OCD right after the incident. And I just like everything had to be perfect. Like I needed to get braces. I had to have perfect teeth, perfect hair, like everything. There could not be a hair out of place. Like if you notice my hair now, like I've obviously like adulted and grown and did therapy and everything else, but I used to be extremely and still am in a lot of ways very OCD. But it used to be all about my looks as well. So being this super like empathic, sweet person that I am, I still was very OCD and in some ways, I guess, very, what is the word for self-conscious? Like, yeah, I was very self-conscious of the way that my appearance was. So I always wanted everything to be precise. Like my room, for example, like I couldn't have friends over and like into my room because if they sat on my bed, I'd have to like remake it right away. Like that was the kind of kid I had become. And I think that that drove me to It's Really Ken. And then I had this quick like social media like fame very young too. So it was like it wasn't only that I like got into a real artist industry, but well, at the time real artist industry because now being an influencer is a real thing, a creator is a real thing, and it's
Sure.
much. And I was trying to tell people that, but it was lots of years of like trying to express that to people and nobody like believing in it because it wasn't a real job to like spend 7 to 8 hours like 6 days a week editing videos and taking videos. Like I don't understand how people don't see that as a real job, but I tried to explain that to people and stuff as well, but I was also modeling. So it was just like it was a crazy journey, you know what I mean? Like it's been a very interesting journey. I think that I've definitely put the blood, sweat, and tears into every single thing that I do, just like I always have. And that's something my mom instilled in me was like, you got to like really work hard. You have to do the best at whatever you're doing, no matter what, even if it's putting the dishes away. And she's a very powerful, strong businesswoman that taught me a lot about business and how to just hustle and like make it through no matter what happens. And I think that everybody goes through a lot of things in life, right? Like everybody has like very hard things that they go through, whether it be legal, whether it be medical, whether it be whatever. And if it weren't for my watching my mom always persevere and like make it through, and all of the strong women in my family persevere and make it through the hard times of divorce and all the different things, I don't think that I would have made it as far as I did today. And I definitely wouldn't have stayed in the industry for 13 years because this industry is probably one of, I would say, the hardest industry to be in. I think that you get so much reprimandment of it not being hard because in other people's eyes, they don't see the other side of it. They're not seeing like the 16 hours a day of filming and memorizing lines and then sleeping 30 minutes and waking up and doing it all over again for a week. People don't see that part. People don't see the 7 days a week of working. This is before we had stories to actually share, here's all the hard work I'm putting in before this comes out. We didn't have reels to take a BTS video. But I think now people get to see it, but back then it was very hard because nobody understood it. They were just oh, you're a model. What are you going to do with your life? It's well, first of all, I'm going to the gym 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I'm eating properly. I'm barely sleeping to put my hours in to get to a place where I can, be where I am today. And that's probably the coming to life. It's always been a journey. I think that it will continue to be a journey because the reason I've stuck with it so long, so many people come in and out so quickly. It's like a revolving door. If you, for example, any of the listeners are a recruiter or in sales, they see a revolving door, right? It's the same thing because you're selling yourself, right? You are the product. So if you don't maintain yourself, there's going to be another person that's going to replace you. If you don't have a purpose, which is what my main point of saying all of this is that I've always had a purpose. And I think when I went through recovery, I felt like I didn't, but then I realized I've always had a purpose, and that was always helping others. And I guess I just didn't see it because of all the backlash that you used to get about 6 years ago with social media, that it's nothing, it means nothing. And people are don't put a motivational post with a shirtless or modeling photo because that's not realistic. And it's no, that was how I reached my audience. If I put that, but then put something important for people to actually read that might help them, then I'm reaching more people. So I'm getting less people that are hating than I'm helping. I'm helping more people than I have to deal with the hate. So that's always been my mantra. It will always stay that way. I hope that, to whoever listens to this, and I tell younger kids that are getting into it all the time, I'm if you're going to do it for a reason, whether that be you really love makeup, whether that be you want to help other people, whether you want to promote, oh my God, I just burped. Sorry, excuse me. Whether you want to promote, be pro-life and help people not commit suicide, whatever it may be, have a purpose, because there's only so much and so far you go with just being pretty. And I used to get people would, when I used to do all my club appearances and everything, I used to do those wild club appearances, and over 2,500 people would come in throughout the night. And I was only 18, 19 years old. People would say things like that, this beauty's not going to last forever and blah, blah, blah. And I'm that's not what this is about for me. I, of course, love to look good. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like to put themselves together? You know what I mean? Put a nice shirt on, put a collar on, feel good about yourself. I'm allowed to feel good about myself. And it took me a long time to realize that too. I think that that's a lot of things I've talked about in the negative side are things that probably put me into the mental space that put me into, getting help, because there's only so many people, millions of people you can deal with over the years. Millions. You know what I mean? I only have 164,000 now, but that's just because the algorithm or whatever. But there's been millions of people over the years that, whether it had been on a billboard, whether it had been in a club, whether it had been wherever. I mean, I've met over 500,000 people in person over the years. So it's when you have that many people, there's always going to be a lot of people that are going through their own things that when you're younger, or when I was younger, sorry, I don't mean to talk about other people. I like to refer to myself. When I was younger, I didn't realize that other people are going through a hard time too. Other people have their own things they're going through. So what they're saying to you is because of whatever they're going through in their life. I've had people come back and apologize to me 8 years later after they said something rude online or in person. And it's just wild because you get to a certain age and to a certain point where you have traveled the world, you've worked all over the world, you've worked in Asia, Australia, Canada. And then eventually I'm just you know what? All I want to do is just always stay positive. I can't always be positive. I have my days just like everyone else, But what I can do is react positively. What I can do is say, you know what, that person's having a bad day, and see if they're okay. You know what I mean? Or just ignore it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about our own self mental health. And when you try to take on the world, you can't take on the world. Like, all I wanted to do was just always inspire people. All I still want to do is inspire people to love themselves, to care about themselves, to take care of themselves, to definitely not commit suicide, to talk to someone, to, like, even if it's your best friend. Like, there's this weird thing in some forms of certain types of therapy, like specifically rehab and stuff, where they tell you other people aren't your therapist, so you need a therapist. And I don't believe in that, because not everybody has the resources to have a therapist. So you need to reach out to your friends and your family. It's not a thing to say, like, definitely don't. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. When I went through that whole, like, culty stuff of, like, no offense, and that's fine if you do AA, like, if it helps you, it helps you. But the worst thing I ever heard was, like, other people are not your therapist. Your therapist is your therapist. I'm like, actually, it's really important to have close friends that you can trust. And it's really important to be able to talk to your mother and father and your family. So.
Well said. Brandon, you're so well spoken on all this. I love this. And you're still only, 27-ish. So
Yeah, I'm only
we're talking
27.
about wisdom way beyond your years. How were you able, you have all this early recognition, right? For your modeling, for your looks, for you're obviously very well spoken. How did you just create your personality aside from the person online? How were you able to kind of figure out who you were?
You know what? I think everybody goes through trying to find who they are, right? And I guess I never really I didn't have that junior and senior year in high school to really find out who I was. Like, I feel like a lot of people get that, like, time to kind of figure it out a little bit. Not saying they know like, what job they're going to do, because I feel like you can, like, spend your rest of your life trying to figure out what job you want to do, but, like, really finding, like, who you are. And I think genuinely I've always had it inside me. We all do. We all have who we are inside of us. But I guess it took me a lot of therapy. It did. It took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of, like, reconnecting with my roots, figuring out my past, figuring out, like, relatives and all of that, to really see, like, and to grow up. Like, I used to think that I was so grown, right? Like, I'm an old soul, I'm empathic, like, I've seen the world already by, like, 19. So I thought I was so mature, and everybody that cared about me that was older was like, you still have so much to learn. And I was like, no, I don't. Because I really thought I had it, I was like, I'm doing the thing. But I did find out, I'm 27 now. I feel, starting a career 13 years ago, I guess I feel like a 35, 40-year-old, like, in experience. But I guess it was, like, only, like, by 26 is really when I started to really figure out, like, truly who I am. And who I am is everyone that I am. You know what I mean? It can be Ken. It can be Brandon in Salt Lake. It can be Brandon in New York. It could be Brandon in LA. And that's okay. That's who I am. Like, I can be whoever I want to be, just like anyone else. But who I will always be, no matter which persona I am, is a caring, loving person, a hardworking person that won't take, crap from anyone. So.
I just want you as my little brother. You're so amazing to speak to. It's so cool the way you say that.
Thank you.
And talk about, and before we go into the book, what about trust? How do you learn to trust? Because you have all these people coming to you, right? They're offering you the world. They're wanting to be your best buddy at the clubs and things like that. How do you able to establish that kind of trust with other people and make yourself kind of feel that vulnerable with other people? Do you ever put up those walls because of it?
You know what, to be honest, there was a long time where I just put up walls altogether. Like you were asking, when did I really find myself? And I think those walls were started when I was 15 and I started It's Really Ken. And that was my walls. That was me just being a persona to hide who I was, hide, or not hide who I was, but to protect who I was from other people.
Right.
But now it does. I've really always given everyone a chance at right away, to be honest. But the minute, or the millisecond that something happens that I'm like, oh, I know where this is going because I've seen it a million times before, especially when you meet so many people, even just living in New York City alone, you like interact with like a few hundred people a day.
Right.
You learn, like, when somebody's just like, maybe not, I'd rather not. But when the relationship starts well, sorry, I ate chips before this and I'm like having the burps. I talked about this the other day, and it's that, you should always be your genuine self and everything like that. But also you can give everybody a first chance. But when you give somebody a first chance, you should, like, that person should always be at their best, right? Because first impressions are everything. That's where I was going with that. Sorry, it took me a second to figure out first impressions. First impressions are everything. So, sometimes you can meet a person and they're having a bad day and they're a completely different person than who they are on a 90% of the time basis.
Yeah.
But the trust, if you get a bad first impression, why would you trust that person? So first impressions are everything. But as far as myself, I think that I still have moments where it's very hard. And trust can be for all different things. Trust could be for work relationships. It can be for personal relationships. It can be for sexual relationships. Like, trust can be hard in any of those categories, or easy in any of those categories for anyone. And I think that I struggle the most with trust with sex with people, just because of what happened when I was younger. And I have tried to work through that, but I think that it may be something that I'll never work through. I think there's some traumas that some people you just can't easily trust people. And especially when you've been cheated on or heartbroken by somebody that you love so much, or somebody that just took complete advantage of you, which happened a lot over the years in my relationships, even though other people were thinking that because I liked older men that they were my daddies and I was taking advantage of them. It was actually the complete opposite. They all ended up taking advantage of me, using me for connections and who I knew, and to be the pretty boy on their arm and everything else. And so trust can be hard in all ways and forms, because at the end of the day, there's just certain people that just want to social climb. And or there's people that want to feed off your energy. And when you're someone with good energy, everybody wants a piece, because they're like, I want that, or I want to ruin that because I'm not happy, so they can't be happy.
Yeah, well said. And let's get into the book a bit. I mean, I'm not really Ken. You're very honest. You're very authentic. I think that's probably what has made you last, honestly, in the business, is your true authenticity. You kind of tell it like it is, and you can see you're coming from a very genuine place.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you're young. You have all these things happen. I'm sure at the clubs they're feeding you alcohol all the time, trying to just kind of be your buddy and everything and do that. When did you first kind of realize maybe it was a problem, and how were you able to address that at first? What gave you the fortitude to be able to say, I need to work on this?
I think that it's just it was never real. What I've learned now is that it was never really the alcohol. It was definitely the medications. So after what happened when I was 14, I was put on a medication called Klonopin. And at the time, they were giving it to you to take daily. And it wasn't there was no give it to you for 3 days. It was like, you take it every day. And then you don't really realize oh, well, obviously you're young and you want to have fun too. And you don't realize you can't drink on that. You know what I mean? And what it does too is it just suppresses everything. So it's like smoking weed, or it's like doing blow. Like, you are always suppressing. And so until you stop that, which I took it from 15 to 24, when you're just suppressing everything, you never deal with it. So you keep allowing the same bad things to happen to you over and over and over and over again until the worst thing happens, and then you really need to get help. So if there's anything that I can say for anyone, is that if you see yourself going down that path, please do it before it's too late and you're forced to get help. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, it's a lot of the abuse comes from, and this is my opinion, I'm not a doctor, a lot of alcohol and drug abuse comes from not dealing with your problems, not dealing with what happened when you were 12 or 8 or 14, not dealing with what happened yesterday, not dealing with what happened at work, not calming down and relaxing before you have your relaxing wine. You know, like, we do it to mask things, right? We like drink to mask a problem. We do drugs to mask a problem. But eventually you just realize, like, you know, if I just deal with this, then, you know, it will hurt for a while. It may hurt forever, but it won't hurt as bad as it's hurting you when you're drinking and doing drugs.
And how do you learn to keep those? I mean, the book of the timing was great. I mean, it came out in November of 2014. We're coming out of a pandemic. Everyone's so into themselves during that time anyway, and you kind of have all these anxieties going on. So I loved the timing of it and your authenticity and honesty of it. But things trigger when you least expect them, right? Things can happen over and over and over again, right? So it gives those coping mechanisms, I thought was great in the book. How does that kind of help you move forward and as you keep going on? Because I'm sure there are things that happen that just like you don't even understand as a trigger, and all of a sudden it's a trigger, right?
Honestly, every day, I was going through a moment yesterday where I was like, you know what? I just need to like take a break. I need to take a break. I need to take a nap. I need to sit here for a second. I need to like, I like to take a long shower. You know, like, I just know, like, if something triggering, I need to go to the bathroom. You know, like, I need to just take a break. You just got to take a break because it can come at any moment. Especially even TV shows. You know, one thing I heard, it was either on another podcast or it was on a documentary, was that even the TV shows you watch will affect your life, impact your life, change your life, because you're like sitting there manifesting this horrible things that are happening on the TV, you know? You know, the music you listen to, like, I've caught myself like listening to depressing music when I'm depressed, and then it keeps me depressed for like 6 days. But if I just put a happy song on, maybe I would have gotten out of the depression, you know? There's just all kinds of things you can do, but it's all based on yourself. Like, you have to start, like, you have to figure out yourself, like, what works for you, because what works for me is not going to work for everyone, you know? But there are things that, you know, obviously we can share and we can tell other people. Like, for me, going and doing cardio every day, 30 minutes even, is the best thing ever. Like, it changes my whole mindset. It makes me feel like a brand new person. All my little like paranoias and anxieties go away, because, like, listen, everybody's got paranoia. I don't care what you say. We all have paranoia. We're like, oh, what if I can't pay this bill this month? Or like, what if a candle burns down my apartment? Or, you know, like, we all have this like anxiety and stress inside of us. Not everyone will share it. You know what I mean? But when you find a way to like get rid of that, like mine is cardio. Like, I love to go do some cardio. I love to take a long hot shower as opposed to a bath. Sometimes baths don't really help because then you're just sitting there like, I don't know. For a while I was doing like meditations and guided meditations, which is in the book. But for me, I started to find like my brain is too hyper functioning to like be able to do that and still not think of other things, no matter my breathing technique, no matter what. Like, I still,
Right.
so yeah.
And talk about, I mean, it's been out now, like I said, came out in 2020. What have you heard? What inspiring stories have you heard from others? Because I'm sure it's helped lots and lots of people. What's kind of been, and that's such a goal of yours, is helping other people. What's been the most kind of exciting thing since the book's come out?
For that I've done.
Well, just the feedback from someone of how it's maybe changed them or it really kind of helped them look at things a little
Oh,
differently.
how the book helped.
Right.
I had people that told me that it helped them go and get help. A lot of people ended up going to rehab and getting help after reading the book. The only thing that I don't regret writing it and I don't regret talking about it, but I don't like when fans put that on me. Like, because of course I have a glass of wine here and there and I'll go out now, like, but I'm not on any medication anymore. But some people need, like, I realized I didn't need to be. Um, and then that I could actually, but then I've run into people out that were already drinking, but then they told me that now they hate me because they looked up to me when I was like sober. And I'm like, but you're literally at the bar before I got here. I don't know how that's my
Right.
problem. Like, I don't know how that's my problem. And it isn't my problem. But it does hurt. But I am happy for the people that did get the help and that it did help them. And a lot of people, my first ever message from that changed the way I saw what I was doing was when I was 18 on Instagram, where they said, hey, you know, yesterday your post really helped me. I was like about to commit suicide and I read your post and I didn't. And that changed my life. That changed my career. That changed everything.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And all right, so we talk about, I mean, it's not really Ken is definitely a go-to book. I recommend people kind of just to learn your journey. You also had that coffee table book you showed me off there. Show that up to everyone. Let's talk about the modeling career.
So this is the
Um,
autobiography.
there you go.
Cute. Of course I have like baby picture with my mom.
I love it.
I love
It's
her.
amazing.
It's my favorite human. And then this is my coffee table book. And
Absolutely beautiful.
I published this when I was 19. I have some that I've kept for myself that maybe one day I'll like auction off or something, but I don't really sell them anymore online. I think we sold over like 10,000 copies or something when it first came out. That was a long time ago. But yeah, it's pretty fun, you know. But
I
this is
love it.
also just from like the age of, like, this was just from 15 to 19. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So
And
since
talk about this
then,
fitness
I've
journey
done
since. I mean, obviously, you're still in amazing shape. What
Thank
do
you.
you recommend? I mean, you have the whole package. I mean, you have people dressing you all the time and styling you, I'm sure. How have you created your style, though? What would you say is your personal style? And you talk about
Yeah, honestly, the
your
way people
fitness.
dress me is like I have input. Like I
That's
always
awesome.
like to be a part of it. So it is pretty much how I dress. And like, for example, like this is how I dress when I go to like dinner and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's my thing and I just love it. Like, I love fashion. But obviously, if it's more casual, like it's like jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, because there were many years where I was like, I have to have designer and blah 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 blah. I don't care about any of that anymore. I'm like, I can have like a belt from, well, not like from, never mind. I mean, it's got to be cute. It doesn't have to be expensive. But like I'll get like clothes from H&M. Like that's like my normal like stuff is like a t-shirt from H&M or a tank top from H&M and shorts or jeans. And but I always love to have a fresh clean pair of Nike Air Ones. Like,
Nice.
we love
I
that.
like it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am an older bear of a certain age, and unfortunately, I have to start doing a little press for some new podcasts that I'm doing and some stuff.
That's
I
awesome.
I don't like my picture taken. I've never had my picture taken. This is your career. What do you recommend for people that are scared of the camera like I am? What do you look for in a photographer? And what are maybe some hints of the trade that people should do when they're getting their picture taken?
I mean, honestly, I would watch. I mean, it depends what kind of photo. Like, if it's like just a professional photo or whatever, I would say, like, if you're just getting a professional photo done and it's not by like a professional photographer in the fashion industry, it's somebody you're going to, they're definitely going to guide you in the right direction of how to pose and what's your face. But definitely like watching other models and stuff like there's so many reels out there now, which is so great that like people get to see that actual shoots and everything where they can watch people pose and how they do it. I mean, I think that like I always just genuinely had it as like a natural talent, but then I also look back and I'm like, I also watched a lot of modeling stuff and shows and videos on YouTube and stuff like that like showed me how to do it. You know, I have videos of my photo shoots, you know, you can see my poses and how I do it and how I move, you know. But like the key is like if it's for a professional shot is just, you know, be like stern and professional, like a little smile, a little smize, you know. So yeah.
I like it. And where do you see your career going? The modeling obviously is not going to change, but you are a singer, you are an actor. Where do you see that venue kind of taking you? What are your goals and hopes for that?
Well, I've just been doing so much different things lately. Like I've been doing red carpets and then I'm doing shoots and then I'm doing magazine covers and campaigns. So I mean, I just see my career still going that direction as well, but I definitely am trying to get more in the world of just social media as well. Because I would like to have it where like I can just inspire people more through videos. And I feel like I really want to go back to doing my like, you know, like my talks, you know, like how we're having this podcast. I've also been thinking of starting a podcast myself. There's a few projects that I can't talk about yet because, you know, I always have my little secrets. But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to get into the singing thing, but it's just like starting, you know, I can do it, but like a single or something, you know, because like really to get back into that, it would be like another 13 years, you know, of super hard work. So yeah, I just foresee myself continuing where I feel like I've reached a place where I'm doing all the things that I ever wanted to do.
I love it. And I do see, I follow you on social media, I have for years now, and you are heading all these great events. How much of a full circle moment is you? I mean, your whole persona started as it's Ken, and now we have Ken and Barbie out there. Is this full circle
That
crazy
has
for
been
you?
a
Or what?
hilarious. You know what cracks me up the most? The amount of hate that I used to get for being a Ken doll because it's like the idealism of like being perfect or whatever. The amount of hate that and now the movie's out and everyone, even the people I saw you, even the people that were like talking like crap about me, um, are now like, oh, I'm Barbie. I'm wearing pink, and I'm at the movie theater, and I'm like in the box, and I'm like, oh, that's really funny. Like I feel like I was doing that a while ago. But you know what? I kind of gave that Ken life up. Like I still will do things representing Ken because that will always be a part of me. I mean, I even have it tattooed on my wrist. But I see myself as Brandon, you know, Brandon Cole Bailey, and you know I'm me, you know, and I think it's great that the movie came out. I even did like a whole thing for it and stuff like that because I thought, you know, obviously like if I was the original I have to do it.
Yeah.
um but I guess I'm excited to see it. Like I definitely want to see the movie. um but it has been a lot. Like I'm like way overwhelmed with the constant like talking about it, everybody reaching out about it, you know, like it's just been like, okay, we're on day what now, like when did it come out, because I'm like 6 days later of like 20 hours a day of hearing about it and seeing it. I'm like, I think we're ready to move on, because you know I'm a New Yorker. I'm like, I'm ready for the next thing. What
There
else?
you go. You broke the internet for a weekend. Get on with your bad self. I
Right,
love
right. Exactly. I'm like,
it.
okay, I did that. Let's go. What's the next thing?
And we'll wrap this up now. What do you think over like of your 27 years now? What is your most proudest accomplishment and what is your goal for reaching out to others? Because you're so good at bringing others along.
Okay, so what is my proudest accomplishment and what is my
What is
proudest?
your proudest accomplishment so far, and what do you hope to do? I mean, like I said, you've done some great accomplishments, both personally and in sharing it with the rest of the world. What's been your proudest thing you are of accomplishing, personal wise? And you do this great job of kind of helping educate others. What do you hope to do for others in the future?
My proudest accomplishment so far is probably sticking to who I am and not letting anybody change me. What I hope to do in the future is to continue that in any way possible, through all of my art, through whatever I'm working on, whether that be even if I'm just going to look pretty in a photo shoot because I can, and it's 13 years later and I'm 27 years old and I did that thing, because that's inspirational too. Like, I would say I would be inspired of me because I see people that are, doing it now 20 years. And when they get that Emmy award and they're like there, I'm like, dang, I really hope I get there one day, because that's awesome. And I'm proud of them. And that inspires me. Like, even the Kardashians, I watched them growing up in the gym, and I'm not going to lie. I don't care what anybody says. They're inspiring. Like, they did really do that. Like, they worked for that. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, of course they had the pre-fame, but there's a lot of people that have pre-fame that people are like, we love them. But it's like, but they had like a famous family already.
Right.
But they are inspiring because they built that brand. They built that image. They built that show. They built their physical brands. They are business people. Like, that is not an easy, I mean, you don't just become a millionaire because your family was famous. You just don't. You have to all literally be extremely smart and talented in so many ways to be able to do that. Like, so I want to continue to be me, and I want to continue to grow as an artist, and I want to continue to do really cool stuff to show people that you can do it. You can do anything you put your heart to, because of course, like, we also didn't touch on the fact that I was, and probably still am, one of the shortest person to have ever done high fashion, like real bookings in high fashion. And like, I did that. So I want to continue to work towards continuing what I always wanted in this life, which was to have the platform to help other people.
I love that, and you are so inspiring. Like, I never really touch eyes. So I know that you don't have the physique of the regular model, right? You don't have the 5'10", 6'1", and
32-inch waist.
Exactly right.
I am 5'10", and I have a 27-inch waist. But I did it, and I faked it till I made it. Like, people meet me in person, they're like, I thought you were taller. I'm like, well, faked it till I made it.
There you go. I love it. Well, you have been so impressive. And Brandon Cole Bailey, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the Left of Str8 Show. In case you've been under a rock for the last 13 years, let them know where they can find you on your social media.
My new handle now is at Brandon Cole Bailey 1 on Instagram. On Facebook, both of my profiles are Brandon Cole Bailey. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, guys, follow this. This career is just keep it going up and up. Thanks for being on the show. I hope to have you back sometime real soon.
Thank you so
we're going to play the 5 questions.
Thank you so much for always being a supporter and having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my friend. I mean, like I said, you're just inspirational, not only in your own personal work, but just sharing with others and just being authentic. So that's what our show's all about, being authenticity.
Which is awesome.
So we're going to play 5 questions. Have some fun with Brandon. Look for that next Tuesday. We will talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening in. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.